Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Dr. T, living your best life here in the Philippines. So it's been about a year since I've been here, so I wanted to give my 1-year assessment. So I'm going to start with the bad and then I'm going to get into the good. I'd rather finish this on a positive note. Sorry, I just made a couple notes so I don't forget anything. And I want to preface this by saying it's kind of funny looking at some of the expat groups online that anytime a foreigner says anything even remotely negative about the Philippines, you have Filipinos jump on them and say, well, if you don't like it, just go home. And then you have expats jumping on them saying, this isn't America, or this isn't New Zealand, or wherever it is you came from. If you don't like it here, just go home. There's nothing wrong with saying that there's some things about a place that could be better. And especially for a YouTube channel like this, the way I did my research, and obviously the way you're doing your research, is you watch videos. I must have watched 100 different videos on different places. I started in Thailand, and then I looked at Vietnam, and ultimately obviously ended up here in the Philippines. But I watched so many videos. Originally I was looking at Dumaguete because there's so many bloggers there in Dumaguete. And then actually, because of some videos, I ended up over this direction in the Philippines. So that's how now modern people obviously are doing their research, is watching videos. And you need to point out the bad because, like I said, on a lot of other videos, a lot of YouTubers, they're not talking about anything negative because they don't want to be bashed in the comments. They don't want Filipinos getting mad at them. They don't want the negative comments from expats saying, oh, if you don't like it, just go home. I like it here, but there are some negatives. So let's talk about that, because like me, I got rid of everything to come here. I sold or donated literally almost every single thing I had other than some clothes. I still have some boxes and some odd and end possessions in America at family members' houses actually. But for the most part, I got rid of 95% of what I owned. So when you're talking about something that drastic, quitting jobs, selling a house, getting rid of cars, sorry, moving halfway across the world, you need to have an honest look at what you're moving into, right? You don't want some BS YouTuber out there just saying, oh, it's glorious here and sugar plums dance in the street and the rivers are filled with chocolate and you know, rainbows in the sky every single day of the week. That's just nonsense, right? So, all right. So having said that, let's talk about the bad. And then, like I said, I'll finish on the good. So bad for me is pollution. And I'm not some, you know, extremist environmental person, but just the air quality here is so bad. And I talked about it on other videos. Air quality is so bad. They're always burning garbage. Literally, I almost put it on video, but I like the gym I work out at and I like the guy who owns it, so I didn't want to feel like I was doing something negative against him. But right outside the gym, they're always burning garbage. It's not him, it's the neighbors, people that live right around the gym. But it's great. You're in there working out in this open air gym and you got billowing smoke of burning trash coming into the gym. So things like that, honestly, take a lot of getting used to. And I don't know, honestly, if I'll ever get used to it, or you sure as shit aren't going to like it, just being honest. And then just the overall cleanliness of this place. It was kind of funny. We were at the port one day buying tickets in Cebu to come here to Bohol. And I was talking to the security guard and there was a giant rat, like this big. The rats are big here. Was under his desk. And I said, dude, there's a giant rat under your desk. I thought he was gonna not like freak out and scream like a girl and run away from it, right? But I thought he'd be a little bit concerned. He's like, it's okay. They're everywhere. But you see it all the time, and it's just, like I said, cleanliness. You've seen some of the videos I've done on waterfalls. You go to some of these gorgeous, amazing waterfalls, things you only see in movies here, and there's Red Horse bottles all over. So that kind of pollution and the just kind of overall dirtiness is just not what I'm used to. And you need to, honestly, you need to be aware of that. And for some people, it's a deal breaker. I was talking to a girl here that moved here from Spain. And I said, what do you think of it? And she said, it's dirty. I don't like it. It's too dirty for me. I don't like it. It's polluted. There's too much garbage. It's kind of gross. So, and again, if you're Filipino, I know you're going to get mad about this, but and I've said this before, if you were a Filipino and you wanted to move to America, I could tell you equally as many things wrong with America. They're just going to be different things, right? So this isn't a comparison. I'm not comparing this to America, but I'm giving it a sense of good and bad. So another bad for me is gyms. The gyms here are not good. There is a nice one that I did the video on there in Lapu-Lapu that they opened. And I'm sure over in Manila, BGC, you have some great modern gyms, but just not to what I'm used to. Again, not a comparison, but I'm used to having giant, very modern gyms that are cheap. The gyms here are actually expensive. When you can find a decent one, much like double and triple the price is what you pay in the West. So, and food, and I just did a video on this. If you're on a strict diet, it's hard to do here. I was, like I said, hardcore carnivore for a long time, and it's next to impossible here. You really can't do it. You can't do it like you're supposed to do it with a lot of red meat. You have to supplement other things. So the food, and I don't like the Filipino food, and that's personal preference. Some people love it. A lot of people in the expat groups, oh, I love the food here. I don't. Again, that's personal preference. But if you have a certain dietary preference, you have to be aware of that there's real limitations on what you can get in the grocery store here. So that's a big one. This is a big, big, big one, especially here in Bohol, the brownouts, the power outages. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, are literally every single week. Every single week. Last week it happened 3 times in the middle of the night, and it's really annoying because the air conditioning units here aren't like central air conditioning like we're used to in the West. They're like these split air cons or window units. So when the power goes out, the air shuts off. So you end up sweating to death. And then every time the power comes back on, you have to get back up out of bed and turn the air conditioning back on. So this happened 3 times. Sometimes it's out for an entire day here, like literally like 6 or 8 hours. And it's really, really hot here in the Philippines, right? And obviously you have no internet because you have no electricity. So you need to be aware of that. It happens literally, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it happens every single week in Bohol, at least once a week for at least an hour. And like I said, up to 6 and 8 hours. And it's just so common here. Obviously, yes, you could buy a generator. I haven't yet, and I was gonna buy, the generator I wanted was like $1,000 US, but it can basically power multiple things, fans and internet and TV and things like that. And some people have solar, and I get it, there's workarounds, but you need to be aware that you're gonna have to have workarounds, or you're just gonna have to be miserable and deal with the fact that you're not gonna have electricity. And some places are better. In Cebu, that happened far, 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 far less. Here in Bohol, I'm talking about here in Bohol, it's really bad. And most of the smaller areas are gonna have similar situations with that. So, but the internet is always stable. As long as you have electricity, the internet, I've never had a problem with the internet, things like that. So, and then just overall processes. And I talked about this before. It's like getting zapped back into time, like 30 or 40 years. Everything is slow here. The people run on their own speed and their own time, and everything's slow, and governmental processes are corrupt and slow, and just it's a total nightmare as far as that thing. So that's a lot of agitation that you're going to encounter. And then just overall comforts that we're probably used to in the West that you just don't have here. And by that, and this might sound dumb because obviously this is the Philippines, so it's hot. But expect to sweat your ass off every place you go. We were in the bank yesterday, had to wait for an hour because everything is slow. Almost an hour and a half, actually. The bank, a regular bank, a modern bank, BDO, you're sweating because the air conditioning systems are so poor here and run so inefficiently, etc., that everywhere you go, you're just sweating. You go out to dinner at a decent restaurant, you're sweating. Obviously, when you're outside, you're sweating. So things like that, I'm just not, even in the mall. Sometimes the big malls will have decent air conditioning, but then certain stores you go into. So it's a little agitating where we're just not used to that, right? Like And I don't mind the heat. I actually enjoy it for the most part, but sometimes you just like, all right, I want to go out to dinner and I want to put on nice clothes and not be drenched in sweat. So, all right. So that's probably all the negative. Now let's talk about the good things, because there are a lot of good things. And like I said, this is nothing bashing the Filipino people or the country. It's just, if you're moving 10,000 miles and abandoning your life wherever it is in your country and moving here, you need to be aware of all those things and weigh the good and bad and say, all right, is there more good than there is bad? And hopefully there is. And if not, maybe you're going to end up in another country. Maybe you're going to end up in Vietnam or Thailand or something like that. So, all right, pros, costs. I just did condo tour here in Bohol, and I did a condo tour in Cebu. You can check those out. I pay 20,000 pesos a month for my house. I haven't done a tour on this house yet, but I will. 20,000 pesos. I live real quick for about 1,200 US dollars a month. Everything, rent, electricity, internet, gas, food, going out to dinner. I budget, well, I don't really budget, but I go out to dinner about twice a week. So 1,200 US dollars is more, I wouldn't say more than, you're not living like a king, despite what those videos want you to believe. To live like a king here, you need 1,500 at least, more like 2,000. And I always say over budget by another 500 because of emergencies and things like that. So, but you compare that to America, right? 20,000 pesos for rent here is 360 US dollars. You're not renting a shoebox in America for $360. You're just not. So, and everything is cheaper. And I talked about this on other videos. Like my haircut, for example, is 70 pesos. That's like $1.30, something like that, US. You go get a haircut, and I lived in South Tampa before I moved here. It was almost $30 to get a haircut. $30. So everything is just cheaper here. So you're going to end up saving money, and you can live a decent life for low cost. So other one would be people. The people tend to be very nice here. They tend to be very helpful. They tend to be very happy. They're very, very family oriented. Going along with that, I would say the dating, and I've done videos on this and a million of those out there as well, but the dating culture here, what you're going to find here in the Philippines is 100 times better than what you're going to find in the West, just from the wokeness, from the traditional values, comparison in cultures, things like that, overall beauty, fitness, things like that. Just their attitude towards men in general, right? So I've done topics on that. So that is a big one. That's a lot of why people come here, is cost, dating, and like I said, livability, like day-to-day things. And then for me, this was a big one, with just overall stress. I live because of those things, because of less money, and I don't have to work as much, and et cetera, right? All these things compile into stress, right? When you're living in the West and having a $2,000 house payment and a $1,000 car payment, and et cetera, and every time you go out to dinner, it's $100, and you go get a smoothie and it's $10, et cetera. You go to lunch and it's $20, $30. It's stressful. You have to work a lot, and you're always worrying about money unless you're making, ridiculous amounts of money. It's always a concern for people, right? So here, I don't worry about any of that. I just don't. I have zero stress. The most stressful thing I have to deal with is the traffic when I drive into Tagbilaran, right? Or if I drive over in Cebu. That's literally the most stressful thing I have to deal with anymore, right? Because I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff because it's insignificant amount. So this is going to be dependent, right? Some people like the mountains, some people like the beach. But if you like the mountains, their Baguio in the Philippines is a much colder climate. And I'm actually going to plan on going there in December and doing a video there. I might do a month in BGC in Baguio before I head to Vietnam. So stay tuned for that. So there is colder temperatures here. But like I said, I don't mind the heat. I like the outdoors. I tend to do a lot of outdoor activities. So there's a lot of that here. If you like the beaches and you like that sort of I call it island life, right? That way of life. This is 100% conducive to that, and it's just relaxing, and it's calm, and it's peaceful. The beaches are nice. The water's crystal clear, right? What else? Sorry, I'm going to take a look at my notes here. And then I would just say overall culture. And this one is hard to capture. And I'm only going to compare it to America because that's my comparison to, because where I lived, right? In America, everything has turned political. Everything has turned into, when I was growing up, you can have friends that disagreed on politics, right? You can have friends that were Democrats and Republicans and all be friends and have intellectual conversations, right? Now, if people don't share the same views as you, it's like they're violent and they want to attack people, and everyone seems to have gone absolutely insane in America. And just what's going on politically and culturally in schools and you name it, it's turned into a madhouse there. It's honestly, and it's kind of funny when you talk to even people that are on one end of the spectrum or the other. If you would think back 10 or 20 years ago, you would never think that this stuff would be happening in America. So you don't have that here. Everyone kind of minds their own business. People aren't really involved into politics. They're not really into LGBTQ issues. You see ladyboys all over the place. You see homosexuals and lesbians. Nobody cares. Everybody just minds their own business. They're happy for them, whatever. Do your thing. But it's not all over the news. It's not all on the TV. It's not what everybody wants to talk about for every single conversation of their life and jump on social media, and that's all they want to talk about. That doesn't happen here. Just the weird culture that we have in the West is not here, and it just isn't, and everyone is very happy, and that, thank God, because that is another one of the reasons, honestly, why I came here. So overall, having said the good or the bad, I still think the good outweighs the bad. There are those bad things to be aware of. For me, just overall happiness, stress-free lifestyle. I'm not going to move back to America. And as I said, I alluded to it on this video, my plan is to go to Vietnam. It's not because I don't like it here, but I hear good things. I've watched, again, tons of YouTube videos on different parts in Vietnam. I think I want to go to Da Nang, and then I'm going to end up in Ho Chi Minh City. So I'll track all that. And I'm looking at, like I said, potentially teaching English. So just for something new, I want to challenge myself and do something totally different. And kind of part of it, too, for me is giving back. I actually tried to go volunteer at some schools here. So that's partially why I want to do this thing in Vietnam and teach some English and, like I said, do something a little different. And that's partially my way. Of course, I'm going to get paid because I'm going to be having a job at a school there. It's not a huge amount of money, of course, what they pay. But that's part of me is just, I just want to do that and give back in some way or fashion. So yes, I'm going to go to other countries after Vietnam. I'm not sure if I'm going to come back here. I'm not even sure how long I'm going to stay in Vietnam. It's at least going to be 6 months, potentially up to a year. And I'm going to evaluate kind of how things are going, obviously. I'm looking at potentially either coming back here, which I probably will come back here. But then after that, I probably want to go to, I'm looking at Romania, and I'm looking at Albania. Albania does 1-year visas for U.S. citizens. So that's kind of nice, and it looks great from what I'm gathering and seeing. And same with Romania doesn't do 1-year visas. I forget how long their visas are. I think they're 90 days. But anyway, so I'm gonna explore different countries and document all this along the way. But it's like I said, not because I don't like it here. Originally, my plan was I want to go check out all these different countries, and eventually I'm going to settle down somewhere. So it's kind of my version of really slow travel, like 6 months to a year in a place, or several months at least in a place, to get a feel for what it's like to live there. Because a month is nice, and I think a month you kind of get a good sense of things and what it's, because shorter than a month, it's a vacation, right? You're doing the vacation things, you're seeing all the touristy sites, and a month and you start to settle into, all right, this is what it's like to live here. This is my routine. Okay, I go to the gym. I do this, I do this, I do this. And of course, you're still doing touristy things. But longer than a month and it starts to become, that's your way of life, right? So 6 months, you have a really good sense on what it's like to actually, okay, this is what it's like to live here for, 5 years or whatever. So I hope that helps. And I still would recommend the Philippines on somewhere to move. And I still am going to be here for probably another 6-ish months, anywhere from 4 to 6 months. I'm not 100% sure on when I'm headed out, but I'll keep you guys updated, obviously, but it's not, like I said, nothing to do with because I am unhappy here. And I would still recommend it, and I still stick to my old video on Cebu versus Bohol, Cebu City at least. Let's just, because somebody did say that obviously Cebu's a giant island, so haven't been to all the places in Cebu, obviously, right? I was more specifically talking about Cebu City area because that seems to be the most popular expat destination versus Bohol. I have been around all of Bohol. I've been north, south, east, west. I've literally been probably over almost this entire island. Like I really, truly have been. So I have a real good sense of Bohol, and I still wholeheartedly like it here much better than Cebu. So, all right, I hope that helps in your thought process and weighing whether or not you want to come here. And I would say yes. I would say go for it if you're thinking about it. Again, I would probably steer you more towards this area than I would Cebu. But overall, I'm happy I did it, and I don't have any regrets. And I'm real happy I pulled that trigger, so to speak. So if you're on the fence, I just say do it. Do it. Start putting obviously you're doing your research now, so put the things into motion, right? Because there's a lot that you have to do to pack up and move across the world, right? Like I said, you got to sell furniture, donate furniture. I was donating truckloads. I have a Jeep back in America. I was filling the entire thing up and going to Goodwill. Just, you can have it all. I was donating so much stuff and just getting rid of so much. So, but it's a process, is my point. So you have to prepare and you have to put a lot of things into motion. So start doing it. Start doing it. You're doing your research. I think you're going to be happy. And honestly, just the overall quality of life and the less stress and the overall sense of freedom that I have, because it is a freeing feeling to say, okay, at the end of this lease, my lease is up here in December. I can go anywhere I want, which I'm going to. It's a great, great, great feeling. I can go to Vietnam. I can go to Baguio. I can go to BGC. I can go wherever it is on this planet I want to go, I can go. And it's a great feeling. I'm not actually tied to anything other than I have some motorcycles. I need to figure out what I'm doing with that. But yeah, it's a great, great freeing feeling. So I wholeheartedly say do it. If you're on the fence, just jump over on the decision of I'm going to do it and pick a date on the calendar and say this is when I'm going to move and start taking the steps to do it. So, all right, I hope that helps in your process, and like and subscribe, and I'll keep you guys updated on where I'm at and where I'm going and all those good things. All right, see you guys.